Today I'm looking at a watch that really stood out to me, and that doesn't happen very often anymore. With so many micro brands on the market, it takes something genuinely different to get my attention. Some brands lean heavily on vintage styling, some go for loud colors or unconventional materials, and plenty just try to beat the big names on price with solid specs. But every once in a while, a brand comes along with a fresh idea that works. That's where SpaceOne comes in. They're a young independent brand doing something I think a lot of collectors have been hoping for, blending futuristic design with real mechanical integrity. Not just throwing wild shapes and bright colors on a dial, but creating something that actually feels intentional. Their jumping hour model, especially this limited orange carbon edition, is a great example of what happens when thoughtful design means smart engineering. If you've ever admired those high-concept watches from independent brands, pieces from MB&F or Urwerk, for example, you know how creative and technically impressive they can be. But let's be honest, for most collectors, those watches are completely out of reach. The price alone puts them in fantasy territory. What I like about SpaceOne is that they're clearly inspired by that kind of watchmaking, the willingness to think differently, the visual creativity, but they're doing it in a way that's much more grounded and accessible. They're not copying anyone, but you can feel that same spirit. And more importantly, they're making something that people can actually own and wear. Now let's talk about the watch itself. The orange carbon jumping hour looks like it belongs in a sci-fi film, but in a really refined and modern way. The case has this curved aerodynamic shape that reminds me of a concept car or something you'd see in aerospace design. The crown is integrated into the side and shaped in a way that honestly looks like a little thruster. And the carbon material of the case is really well done. Carbon can be hit or miss. It either elevates the design or feels out of place. In this case, it adds to the futuristic look without being overbearing. The matte marbled finish gives it texture, and more importantly, it keeps the watch lightweight. That's a huge plus with a case this size. Now, calling the dial doesn't actually feel quite accurate. What you actually get is more of a display window with the hours and minutes tucked under a large sculpted sapphire crystal that flows right into the case. It's modern, sleek, and minimal, but still very much mechanical. One small detail I really appreciate is the rotating seconds disc to the left of the main display. It's subtle and easy to miss, but it adds just enough movement to keep things visually interesting. That's something a lot of jump hour watches lack. They look completely static between hour changes. This solves that in a simple but effective way. Mechanically, the jumping hour is powered by a Soprod automatic movement. It's Swiss-made, has a 38-hour power reserve, and is known for being pretty reliable. But the real highlight here is the jumping hour module that has been added on top, developed in collaboration with independent watchmaker Theo Auffret, who's also a co-founder of the brand. This module is what delivers the clean, crisp hour jump that makes the watch stand out. Out of the box, the watch comes on a fabric strap that fits the overall vibe. It's practical, minimal, and comfortable, but if you like to swap straps like I do, you'll appreciate the option to go with a custom CTS rubber strap from Deluxe. They're available at checkout, and they're a great fit for the unusual case shape. Whether you're looking for something a little more casual or a bit more refined, the options are there, and they actually work well with the design. As for wearability, yes, this is a big watch, but it doesn't feel unwearable. The carbon case keeps the weight down, and the ergonomic design helps it sit well on the wrist. Most of the size is in the diameter, not the lug-to-lug length, which makes a difference. My wrist is about 6.75 inches, and it wears just fine. If you're coming from traditional 38 or 40 millimeter dress watches, it's definitely going to feel larger. But if you've worn more modern sport watches or chunkier cases, this won't be a problem. And it's the kind of watch you want people to notice. It's a conversation piece. You're not just wearing it to tell the time, you're wearing it because it has a story and it looks like nothing else out there. To me, the jumping hour is a good example of what modern independent watchmaking should be. It's not borrowing heavily from the past, and it's not chasing after what the big brands are doing. It has its own direction. Every part of the design feels like it was done with intent. The materials, the mechanics, the way it wears, it all feels thought through. And at €2,300 or about $2,400 US, you're getting a true mechanical complication, unique design, and something that genuinely stands out. Only 25 of the orange carbon version are being made, so if you're even slightly tempted, it's probably worth acting on. So let me know what you think about SpaceOne down in the comments, and if you'd wear a jumping hour like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.